Welcome to today's discussion of insights from clinical psychologist Preeti Sharma. We're diving deep into a phenomenon that, well, it feels increasingly inescapable in our hyper-connected world, the fear of missing out, or FOMO. Our mission is to really unpack what FOMO truly is, going beyond just the social media surface, and then explore practical, actionable ways guided by the sharp insights from her work to reclaim your time and energy in a world that constantly vies for your attention. Her work really highlights just how pervasive this feeling has become and its very real impact on our mental well-being.
It's so true. You encounter it everywhere, don't you? Whether it's like endless social notifications, invitations piling up, or even just feeling that little pull when friends talk about something you weren't part of. And Preeti points out, this isn't just some fleeting feeling. It deeply affects our daily emotional state and our decision-making too.
Okay, so let's start right there then. What is FOMO at its core? Is it really just about feeling left out when you see someone else's highlight reel online?
Well, social media certainly makes it worse, amplifies it, But she explains that the roots of FOMO actually run much deeper than the digital stuff. Fundamentally, it taps into a really ancient psychological response.
Ancient? How so?
Think about our evolutionary past, right? Needing to be aware of what the group was doing, not missing opportunities for resources or safety or connection. That was vital for survival. It's kind of that old wiring for vigilance and belonging. But our modern digital landscape has just magnified this ancient fear.
Magnified it? How?
To levels that can become genuinely unhealthy and, pretty overwhelming according to clinical psychologists.
So it's like a survival instinct kind of stuck in overdrive in this digital age.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And a key concept that she introduces here is the perception gap.
The perception gap?
Yeah. What we often see online, the carefully curated posts of perfect moments, the filtered photos, the list of events someone attended, isn't the full messy reality of life, is it?
No, definitely not. It's the highlight reel.
It's the highlight reel. And this creates a false perception that basically everyone else is living this incredibly rich, exciting, and fulfilling life way better than your own.
Oh, right, the endless comparison trap.
Precisely. This perception gap fuels significant anxiety naturally. A feeling of inadequacy because your everyday reality feels kind of dull compared to those perceived highlights. And crucially, it leads to decision paralysis.
Decision paralysis?
Yeah, you feel this constant pressure that you should be somewhere else, doing something else. Trying desperately not to miss out on those perceived better options, which can leave you feeling sort of frozen, or just compulsively saying yes to everything.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. And if that feeling of anxiety and inadequacy drives us to constantly say yes all the time, thinking we're fighting FOMO, well, studies reveals this comes at some pretty significant hidden costs.
Oh, it really does. Several major costs associated with that compulsive need to agree to every invitation, chase every notification, and try to be part of every single perceived opportunity.
Right? What are the main ones she identifies? What should we look out for?
Okay, so first there's just significant energy depletion. Simple as that. When you're driven by the fear of missing out, you tend to spread yourself incredibly thin. We've all been there, right?
Totally.
Signing up for too many things, trying to be in multiple places, constantly feeling obligated. Preeti highlights how this just leaves you physically and mentally exhausted. And the great irony is...
What's that?
Is that you become unable to truly engage or be present in any of the experiences you're trying so hard not to miss. You're just kind of going through the motions.
Wow. So trying to do everything means you end up present for basically nothing, not fully, anyway.
It's a core paradox of FOMO that clinical psychologist points out.
Yes.
Another significant cost is decision fatigue. Think about it.
Okay.
That constant stream of choices. Should I check this notification? Should I go to this event? Respond to this group chat? Take on this extra task? It creates this perpetual pressure to evaluate and decide. And this just rapidly depletes your mental bandwidth, your ability to make thoughtful, intentional choices, even simple ones. It becomes severely compromised because, well, your cognitive resources are just exhausted.
Your brain is just tired. Tired from the relentless pressure to always be deciding something.
Exactly. And this ties right into the third cost which she talks about, the loss of personal priorities.
How so?
Well, when you're constantly chasing external validation by saying yes based on what others are doing or inviting you to. Psychologist observes that these external metrics and perceived expectations start overriding your own internal values. What genuinely matters to you, independent of all that outside pressure, it just takes a back seat.
So you lose touch with your own goals?
You can, yeah. You can lose touch with your own preferences and goals because you're so focused on what you feel you should be doing based on what you see others doing.
You end up living a life dictated by other people's highlight reels rather than your own actual values. That's sobering.
That's a really critical insight from Preeti's work. And it all culminates in that fourth cost she mentions, diminished presence.
Diminished presence.
Yeah, the ultimate irony she describes is that in this desperate attempt to experience everything, you actually end up experiencing nothing fully. Your attention is just fragmented. You're always wondering if there's something better happening somewhere else. Your mind is elsewhere. You might be physically present, but mentally and emotionally, you're just not truly there.
That's a really powerful depiction of the trap, isn't it? So, okay, knowing these costs, understanding them, how do we actually break free? This is where Preeti offers some practical strategies, which is where, for me, it gets really interesting and hopeful.
Absolutely. She provides 5 key strategies, and these draw directly from her clinical psychology expertise to help us combat FOMO and reclaim our space and energy.
Okay, let's walk through them. What's the first step she suggests?
The first is practicing intentional JOMO. The joy of missing out.
JOMO, right? I've heard of that.
Exactly. Consciously making the choice to not participate in certain things. And the key is, this isn't about feeling deprived. It's about reframing it. Seeing it as a conscious choice to invest your limited time and energy into something else that aligns better with your values. Or maybe just your need for rest.
Okay.
So when you decline an invitation or step away from a social feed, you intentionally acknowledge the peace, maybe the relief, the freedom that comes from actually setting that boundary.
So it's reframing missing out as actually choosing into something else that matters more to you right now.
Precisely, that's it, exactly. The second strategy recommended is conducting a values audit.
A values audit? Sounds serious.
It's about getting crystal clear on what genuinely matters to you, independent of all the external noise. And she poses a really powerful guiding question for this. If I had only 1 year to live, how would I spend my time?
Yeah.
Reflecting on that question can provide a really potent internal filter. You ask yourself, does this potential commitment or opportunity truly align with those core values and how I'd spend that precious limited time?
That cuts right to the heart of what's actually important, doesn't it?
It really does. Then the third strategy from Psychologist is implementing the hell yeah or no rule.
Yeah, okay. Tell me about that one. Sounds decisive.
It is. It's a simple binary filter that just cuts through indecision. When you're considering an invitation or opportunity, if your immediate gut response isn't an enthusiastic hell yeah, then Preeti says it's a no. She finds this rule incredibly effective at eliminating those wishy-washy maybes and the pressure we feel to say yes out of obligation or, fear. If it's not a definite, enthusiastic yes, it's a clear no.
Simple, but I can see how that would be incredibly effective at forcing clarity. Gets rid of the gray area.
It really is effective. The fourth strategy Preeti suggests is developing strong digital boundaries, which makes sense, right?
Yeah, given how much the digital world fuels FOMO, that seems essential.
Totally. And this means experimenting with specific actionable steps like designate specific hours each day when your phone is just put away, out of sight. Use apps or phone settings to limit time spent on certain social media platforms. Turn off non-essential notifications so you're not constantly being pinged and interrupted. And maybe schedule regular digital detoxes, even if it's just for 24 or maybe 72 hours. Just step away completely.
And putting deliberate limits on the primary trigger. Makes sense.
Absolutely crucial. And the final strategy is practicing mindful gratitude.
Gratitude. Okay.
Yeah, because FOMO thrives on this sense of perceived scarcity, right? This feeling that there isn't enough opportunity or good experience to go around, and you're somehow missing your share. So you counteract this by intentionally acknowledging the abundance that's already present in your life. Clinical psychologist suggests trying a daily gratitude practice, maybe focusing specifically on experiences or moments you are currently enjoying. Shifting your focus from what might be missed to what is already here and enriching your life right now.
Shifting from that scarcity mindset to one of appreciation for what you actually have. Yeah. These strategies are all very concrete, very actionable, but let's look a bit deeper now. What does her work tell us about the underlying psychology? Why does FOMO hit us so hard? What is it really truly about?
Well, she shares a really profound observation from her clinical practice, actually. There's this surprising truth that individuals who consciously and strategically limit their options, they often report a greater sense of satisfaction and meaning in their lives than those who try to keep every single possibility open.
Really, that's completely counterintuitive to the feeling FOMO gives you, isn't it?
It is totally counterintuitive. But she explains that by saying no intentionally, you're not actually closing yourself off. You're creating the essential mental, emotional, and frankly, physical space needed to fully invest in and embrace what truly matters to you.
Okay, that's a powerful reframe.
It is. And she explains that FOMO really at its core is fundamentally tied to these deeper, often unconscious fears. The fear of not belonging and the fear of not being worthy. There's often this underlying belief she finds that you need to participate. You need to be seen doing certain things, to keep up with others, all in order to prove your value or earn your place in a group or just in the world.
Wow. So it's deeply intertwined with our sense of self-worth then?
Absolutely, deeply. And Preeti emphasizes that the real antidote isn't just adding more experiences or chasing more opportunities. That's not it. It's about cultivating a deep internal recognition that your value isn't determined by what you do or don't participate in, or what you own, or where you've been seen. Your worth is inherent. It just exists simply because you exist.
That's a powerful idea, almost revolutionary in a world so driven by FOMO. How do we even begin to internalize something like that? It feels big.
It does feel big, but it starts with conscious reflection and self-awareness. It's a practice. Preeti offers a really powerful question to ask yourself the next time you feel that familiar pang of anxiety about potentially missing out.
Okay, what is it?
Ask yourself, what am I afraid would happen if I didn't do this? And importantly, follow it with, what might I gain by saying no? She points out that the path to reclaiming your authority over your life and your choices lies precisely in taking that moment for honest reflection. Examining the underlying fears, yes, but also the potential benefits of choosing differently.
So that process helps you see if the pressure's really coming from outside or maybe from your own internal fears and whether following that pressure actually serves you.
Exactly. It's about shifting the focus away from seeking that external validation and belonging, and instead aligning with your internal truth and your own values.
Okay, so to sort of bring this all together then, the core takeaway here, strongly supported by her work, seems to be that strategically saying no, well, it isn't about deprivation or limitation at all. It's actually a powerful act of creation. It creates the vital mental and emotional space you need to fully embrace what truly matters to you, allowing you to reclaim your precious time, your energy, and ultimately your authority over defining and living a meaningful life on your own terms.
Beautifully put. Her insights really highlight that peace of mind, the ability to be present and focused on what you're actually doing. That is infinitely more valuable and fulfilling in the long run than the fleeting temporary validation you might get from trying to experience everything or keep up with others. Focused attention on what genuinely enriches your life, that's the ultimate powerful antidote to the anxiety and exhaustion of FOMO.
These insights from clinical psychologist Preeti Sharma offer valuable perspectives for navigating modern life, making conscious choices, and improving well-being. Her work provides such a thoughtful guide for moving away from that anxiety-driven reactivity and towards a life of more intentional presence. We really strongly encourage you to explore more of her valuable perspectives on these topics.
Definitely. And maybe here's a final thought to consider, drawing on her insights. Just imagine for a moment, how different might your daily decisions be? How much freedom might you experience if you truly believed, like deep down, that your value is inherent and unconditional, that it's not something you have to constantly earn or prove or maintain by participating in everything or keeping up with the perceived experiences of others? Just think about the profound shift that single belief could create in your life.